Hello and welcome to today's session on how to play scales fast. This is 5 tips on how you can get your scales faster. 3 and 5 are a little bit strange and you probably won't see in other videos. Let's jump in. So tip number 1. Well, number 1 is about trying to play scales using and speeding up really this left hand. So to begin with, especially when we're trying to get to play faster, we need to be doing things faster with the left hand particularly, and we want to isolate that as much as possible. Syncing up the hands, one of the struggles with guitar that we have is trying to sync up the 2 hands together. So I'm a big fan of, first off, try and get the left hand faster. And the way you do that is you take whatever scale you're playing. Say we're doing the E minor pentatonic, which is 12, 15, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 14, 12, 15, 12, 15. Instead of trying to persevere with trying to make that scale faster as is, and it could be any scale could be an example in the whole world. What I would recommend is trying to play faster using hammer-ons and pull-offs, so legato playing here. What is legato playing? What are hammer-ons and pull-offs? Well, it encompasses these 2 things, and it's about only picking one note at a time. So I'm only picking the first note, and then this next note, I'm moving my finger to the note like a hammer. Like so, it's quick and it's quite powerful, and really it's the speed that gets the hammer into there, and then the sound comes out without me having to pick again, which means my right hand is now not involved in that second note. So that's where the quickness comes in. It forces your fingers to have to start moving faster by learning to do hammer-ons and pull-offs, and you immediately start getting something usable in the rest of your scale playing. Because you're doing those hammer-ons. Now, pull-offs are the opposite. Pull-offs are where we play a note that's already down. If we're doing that, it's unlikely that we're going to be able to hammer on the note before it. Doesn't work quite as well. So what we do in the reverse, coming back, is we pick the note that we're playing on that string first, and then we pull off. So my finger is going through the string this way, and it's as if it's plucking that string to then get this one to sound here. So I've picked this note. Now, as I pull that off, it's not lifting like this, it's pulling through the string. So you develop a new type of callus with it. You can probably see my pinky finger there has just got a mark on it where that string was. It might hurt the first. Have you never done this before? But that's the first thing to do, is to really get that left hand, whatever scale you're playing, doing legato, hammer-ons and pull-offs, and kind of removing your right hand from the conversation altogether. All right. So tip number 2. Tip number 2 is all about reducing what you're practicing down. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they're trying to play the guitar faster or play scales faster on the guitar is that they just practice too much of the scale at once. Now what you need to do is you need to chunk it down into smaller pieces, and this is great for not only your guitar playing but also your musicianship, because most of the time when we're in songs or if we're soloing, we don't want to hear a whole scale. What we want to hear is part of a scale or scale fragments that sound cool, and you might play 4 notes of a scale followed by a bend or something else. So actually this is hugely to your advantage, and it's sort of a misnomer on how to play scales fast, because really playing through the whole scale up and down really fast hasn't got huge amounts of benefit, but doing these scale fragments does. But if you wanted to play the whole scale up and down fast, you can still do this. You just chop it up into pieces. Let's see what I mean. So when we're doing this, if I'm back to this E minor scale here, I could chop it up into practicing this part here, and I've been a bit disingenuous here. It should be pinky, which I'm a bit slower on, feels a bit more awkward. Should be first finger pinky, first finger, third finger if I'm doing it in the whole scale. And then do these next two strings. And practice those. And then these top two strings. And don't forget to do the reverse. We've got to do the backwards too. Okay, what's tip number 3? So tip number 3, this is called the 2-3 method, and I have to give a shout out to one of the guitar teachers that works at my guitar school in London here, Dan Mayhew. He brought this 2-3 method into the school about 5 years ago, and it was great for students, speed training and playing and all sorts of stuff. So this is awesome. What you're going to do is you take whatever you're working on and you do 2 times really fast and then 3 times really slow. And the idea is on the 2 times really fast, you're going to see what is breaking up. So it's all about noticing what's happening with your playing and what's going wrong. And then on the 3 times slow, you're going to try and focus on making that thing sound better, or see if you can get it to be better on the slow version. And then you do 2 fast again, 3 slow. So the 2 fast happen quite quickly, the 3 slow happen really, 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 really slowly, like the speed of grass growing. All right, let's jump in and take a look. I'll give you some examples. So if I'm back over here doing the minor pentatonic scale, and I'll try and demo something that I think happens a lot, especially with the legato method that we've been in before, is, so if I do some fast ones, and what I notice as I'm doing it is that it's not very clear, there's a bit of buzziness going on, and this note is much stronger than this one because I'm just lightly touching it because I'm trying to be quick. So now in the 3 slow, I'm going to try and do really slow. I'm going to try and get these hammer-ons to be very loud as I go. So I get to go 3 fast again. Oh, let me do that properly. So now, on a personal level, I tried that a little bit faster. I can feel as I'm doing the faster ones, my elbow's a little bit tense. So I notice my elbow's tense. I'm going to now do 3 slow ones, trying to relax my elbow, or just notice what's happening in my elbow. As I'm doing these ones, I'm only focusing on my goal for these 3 slow ones. Okay, and now back to 2 fast again, 3 slow. 2 fast, 3 slow. And you'll find that each time you do the 2 fast ones, you might find that you get a different result. You might find that you get the same thing that you notice. So you might spend 10 minutes working on exactly the same thing. You might find the next 10 minutes that it rotates and something else is the problem. It's a great way to practice. And also at the end of it, you'll have done loads of very focused repetitions on the same thing, which means that will improve a lot, because we always say repetition makes a huge difference in your playing, but it's not just repetition for repetition's sake. It's about focused and deliberate practice. We're trying to actually achieve something. This hits all those goals. So what's tip number 4? Tip number 4 is all about relaxation. I don't mean that we're heading to the spa yet, but for your body, it does need to be a little bit like that. The ability to play fast is as much about being able to relax and smoothly move through these motions as it is knowing them correctly and knowing exactly where your fingers are going. And that comes with practice at trying to play as much as possible, and then noticing what muscles are switched on that don't necessarily need to be switched on, and turning them off. If you're really tense through your arm and you're getting lots of pain, then that's a bit like trying to drive a car down the motorway with the handbrake on. It's just not going to go, and you'll burn out very, very quickly. So one of the big things, the long-term games playing fast, is trying to notice what muscles are switched on that shouldn't be. And a great way to think about this is that when something's new, your body is going to try and recruit all of the wrong muscles, or all of the muscles it can, to try and do it. The more practice you do, it's going to start switching off some of those muscles and then make it easier for you. But there comes a point where your brain just goes, oh, I think we've switched off enough of the muscles now, that'll do. And you have to kind of consciously scan through some of your muscles to find out which ones are still on that don't need to be on. And using the 2-3 method from tip 3 is a really good way to achieve that goal, to notice, okay, what's switched on that isn't being, and just become aware of them. And that leads us really nicely to tip number 5. So tip number 5 is a strange one, not one you'll see probably in anyone else's videos, but this is all about sleep. If you're doing all of those practice things that I said and you're putting in the effort to do them, you might find that on day 1 you don't make very much progress. On day 2 you make progress and you're consistently getting progress. But the only big barrier that is never going to be told to you about what to do in your practice is the big thing that happens outside your practice. And there was a huge study done that brought us the 10,000 hours rule that everyone raves about. And really what they discovered in that 10,000 hours to mastery rule was that people who got really, really good, they did, 3 or 4 hours of practice each day, and they were doing this deliberate practice in the style of what we're doing. So you don't have to do 3 or 4 hours. Even if you did 30 minutes or 20 minutes, it's going to make a huge difference. But the big thing that they all had in common, all of the people who got really, really good, was not really that it took 10,000 hours. That was a little bit arbitrary. It was the amount of practice time was pretty consistent. But the big thing that they all had in common was the amount of sleep that they got each night. Every single person who was smashing it in those studies got 8 hours plus of sleep per night. Now, if you get less than 8 hours sleep of night, then it starts to have a huge detrimental effect on your ability to learn, especially your ability to learn guitar and to retain information, and for your body to discover and uncover those new pathways. Every musician who does consistent practice has had the experience of being frustrated, not being able to do it, and then going to bed and waking up the next day and just suddenly it's there. It's because there's something magic that happens when you do consistent practice and you sleep well. So that's tip number 5. It's a strange one. I bet it's not in anyone else's videos, but I'm going to recommend that you get a good night's sleep, not just once, but consistently. Start putting 8 hours in if you want to get your speed up on the guitar, because it will make a huge difference. It's science, yo. Thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment about which tip you think was the most useful for you, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much.